Well, it certainly appears from Barry Jackson's article in the Miami Herald that the Marlins are going to do something.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Marlins. I'm your host, Jeremiah Geiger. I'm a diehard Marlins fan, and I've podcasted about the team for 4 seasons. You can find me on Twitter at Jeremiah Geiger2, and thank you for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. Let me know your thoughts, your opinions in the comment section, and also hit that like button as well. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. And on today's show, we're going to react to Barry Jackson's article in the Miami Herald, where he pretty much laid out what he's hearing for the Marlins and their offseason plans and where they're going to address needs on the roster. And a lot of it is stating the obvious, but there's some interesting bits of information that Marlins fans should know and be aware of what the Marlins will be trying to do and what they won't be trying to do. So us fans as a fan base don't put these lofty expectations in our own minds. We don't put that upon ourselves only to get disappointed by the end. For example, there's not going to be a spending spree. He said that in about the second paragraph, probably about 4 lines down in the article. No, there won't be a wild spending spree and $100 million contracts. The Marlins will never operate that way. They're not the New York Mets. Bruce Sherman is not Steve Cohen. By the way, spending money is a necessity. It is. But just wheeling and dealing your cash and opening up your wallet and just writing blank checks to any free agent that you believe you need, that's also not a wise decision. Go ask the aforementioned Mets. They missed the playoffs. One of the highest payrolls in baseball ever. So all I want as a Marlins podcaster, as someone who cares about this team and who's loved this team for years, is to meet in the middle. I'm not asking you to go be the Mets. I'm not asking you to be the Dodgers. I'm not asking you to pretend to be something you're not. But your third offseason with President of Baseball Operations, Peter Bendix, this is going to be your third offseason. I need to see something increase. I need to see something change. And that is the spending on the roster, the payroll of the current Marlins players. No, I'm not talking about Giancarlo Stanton, who I believe the Marlins are still paying a chunk of his salary to, which blows my mind, considering Big G hasn't played in a Marlins uniform since 2017. Avisail Garcia, total bust of a contract. Will we see a contract in the $54-55 million range? I think it's a possibility. I'm not willing to rule it out yet. I know Barry said, look, there's not going to be a spending spree. There's not going to be $100 million contracts. But a 3-4-year, $55 million contract, I think that's feasible. I think that's something that can be done. And that's about as high as I would see the Marlins target a free agent with that number in mind. Maybe 60 million. It's just hard to envision them exceeding or far exceeding rather the Avisail Garcia contract, which was a total and complete flop. We all know that. And Bruce hasn't really spent since. It is what it is. It was a 4-year, $53 million, not a 3-year. So a 4-year. He's still going to make his money next season as well. I think he's owed $12 million in 2025. So Avisail Garcia, his contract still isn't off the books. So the Marlins are paying dead money. And let me check Giancarlo Stanton real quick. because he signed that contract after, was it after the 2014 season? So 13 years, $325 million. It was guaranteed. And I believe the Marlins are still paying some of that off, if I'm not mistaken. He's definitely getting deferred money. That's not going to happen. Don't worry about that. But you should want this team to spend money. You should want this team to invest in the young core, in the young talent they've had or that they have established. 2024 was the rebuild year. That was the year we all suffered through. Together as a fan base, it was awful. In terms of wins and losses, this team was completely dead by mid-April. I mean, really, you could go back to the opening series, and after that opening series, you could say they were toast. I mean, they started 0-9. They were 1-11. At that point, you knew, okay, yeah, it's not working out. This isn't good. This team is not going back to the playoffs. But that's 2 years ago now. 2026 is what we're building towards. 2024, you wash your hands of it. You kicked off the rebuild. It was difficult, but you're already seeing fruits of your labor. Now it's time to take that next step in being competitive. So, what will the Marlins plan to do? Here's the very first big take from Mr. Barry Jackson in regards to the Marlins plans. He says the Marlins plan to be active in free agency. Like that. That's good. We want that statement out there. We plan to be active in free agency. Okay, who are they going to go after? And they will try to add a high leverage reliever and an established hitter. They prefer the position player added is a first baseman. If they cannot find a first baseman, the bat added could be a third baseman or corner outfielder, but ideally they would like to sign a proven first baseman. Boom. There it is. Crystal clear. It's black and white. The Marlins see what we're seeing. They know that first base was an issue all of this past season, especially offensively. With all due respect to Eric Wagman, who had his moments in the month of August and September, when you look at it from a collective standpoint, first base wasn't very good. Neither was third base. And then that corner outfield position, besides Kyle Stowers, Jacob Marcy, it's probably your internal options probably are going to be Heriberto Hernandez and Griffin Conine. So there, like he said, there's a possibility this team reaches out and addresses that, but the glaring need is first base. So who are the two biggest fish, no pun intended, in the free agent market that play first? Pete Alonso and Josh Naylor. And Polar Bear Pete, who's been a Marlins killer his whole career. Great player. I don't like him that much because he plays for the Mets. It is what it is. It's a rivalry. Nothing against the guy personally. But you won't mistake me for a Peter Alonso fan. Is he realistic? Is that even in the realm of possibility for the Marlins to give a huge deal to Pete Alonso, who just opted out of his contract in New York? To what? To become a Marlin? Yeah, I don't think so. I don't even think it's worth diving into the numbers, because the money that Pete Alonso would want from a team is going to be well above the Marlins price tag. I mean, he signed a 2-year, $54 million deal last winter. He had that huge, not holdout, but was just waiting. We didn't know what was going to happen. It looked like he was going to leave the Mets. Eventually, he re-signs with the Mets, signs the contract, gives him a player option after 2026. Has a really good year. He had a great year, hit 38 bombs. And was scheduled to make $24 million this upcoming year. So that tells me one thing right there. If he's making anything close to $24 million a year, he's not taking that contract. He wants probably $30 million and above annually and a multi-year deal. So rule Pete Alonso out. Josh Naylor, I've talked about Josh Naylor on the show before. He is my ideal candidate for the Marlins to make a splash signing. Yeah, he's not Pete Alonso, but he's an all-star, former Marlins first-round pick, by the way, and somebody that I don't think is going to break the bank. Yes, he's going to cost money. He's going to cost a lucrative multi-year deal, but he's not going to be a $150 million player. He's not going to be a $120 million player. At least I would be shocked if that's the case. And maybe I'm completely underestimating Josh Naylor's value. But I look at Josh Naylor, and if I'm the Marlins, I would be more than happy to go up to him and say, what would a 4-year, $65 million contract look like? I mean, that's a lot. And ESPN's Kylie McDaniel suggested a 3-year, $52.5 million contract. So, I mean, 4 years, $65 million. Avisail Garcia was 4 years, $53 million. It's in that ballpark, and it addresses the most glaring need on the roster. So Josh Naylor would, oh man, if the Marlins sign Josh Naylor, I mean, we're getting lit. We're starting the hype train. We're pumped up. We're ready to go. Bring on the Mets. Bring on the Braves. Bring on the Phillies. Give me everybody. Let's go, because that's a team that's actively trying to compete. I'm getting excited just thinking about Naylor coming over to Miami. Still doubtful that it actually happens. If I had to rank it on a scale 1 to 10, I'd say a 4. It's in the possibility, but there's more doubt than belief when it comes to signing Naylor. But this next player that I'm going to talk about coming up next is more realistic, and I'd be really happy if the Marlins went out and signed him as well. Yeah, he's not Alonso, and he's not Josh Naylor, but he's still a stud. I'm going to tell you who that is and why I think he's a great fit for the Marlins right after this. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. I know I'm very busy. I don't have a ton of time to organize my finances, and that's what Monarch does for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. You can also maximize your investments, increase your savings rate, and review your finances with your partner or financial advisor so you have a clean bill of financial health. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONMLB. I appreciate all the everyday listeners who tune in to Locked On Marlins throughout the week. This is your place for Marlins content, if I can speak correctly today. Sip of water. Let's get right into it. Talking about Barry Jackson's article in the Miami Herald that came out today. Talking about first base being the main target for the Marlins this offseason. So who is somebody that's not going to cost Pete Alonso money, probably not cost Josh Naylor money, but is still a very valuable player, and that's going to be Ryan O'Hearn. Ryan O'Hearn traded this deadline from the Baltimore Orioles to the San Diego Padres and had a really good year. Now, he had a good year on a 1-year, $3,500 or $3.5 million contract. That was an arbitration with the Orioles. He ends up getting traded. His last year of ARB, he's scheduled to hit the open market. He had a good enough year where he can expect to earn some serious money that's going to help him and help his family, and it's great. What does this mean for the Marlins? Go out, and if you're not going for Naylor, and if you're not going for Alonso, Ryan O'Hearn's the next guy on the list. He's just 32 years old, coming off of a season which he had he hit 281, an OPS of 803, 17 bombs, and 63 RBIs. Helped the Padres get into the playoffs after his trade from Baltimore. I think that O'Hearn is somebody that could come in. Now, he spent a lot of time with the Royals organization before really breaking out in 2024. I think O'Hearn's your everyday first baseman. No questions asked if the Marlins sign him. Now, he's lefty, you say. He's a left-handed hitter. They already have Hicks. They have Troy Johnston that can play first base. And what about Eric Wagman? Well, one of those guys, it feels like, has to go. If you sign O'Hearn, it's hard for me to imagine all three of those guys are still on the roster in 2026. The good thing about O'Hearn is you look at the splits, he's got really good splits against lefties. He only had 97 at-bats against left-handed pitchers this season. 70 games, hit 278 with an OPS of 832. That OPS of 832 is actually higher than his OPS against righties, where he hit 795. So O'Hearn, technically with reverse splits, proves he's good against same side pitching. He can play every day. You don't necessarily need to platoon him. And I know the San Diego Padres would consistently leave him out of the lineup, and their fan base, down the stretch, and their fan base they were getting upset. Why aren't you playing O'Hearn? You got to play your best guys. I mean, the Yankees just did that in this past wild card series against the Red Sox when they benched Jazz. Jazz is coming off of a 30-30 season and has decent splits against left-handed pitching. And I know there's the argument that it was Garrett Crochet, and I understand that to a degree. But I think if you sign O'Hearn, if you're the Marlins, that's your guy. I don't see a point in keeping Eric Wagman on the roster because O'Hearn, I think, lefty versus lefty, is better than Eric Wagman against any side pitching. It doesn't matter. Give me Ryan O'Hearn. So that's a target right there. Clear-cut target that I don't think ownership should hesitate from this particular player. I can understand if you kind of buckle at the idea of Josh Naylor. I get it. That's why I rated my expectation for that becoming a reality a 4, and it's probably closer to a 3, to be honest with you. We'll call it a 3.4, 3.5. I think it's probably not going to happen. But Ryan O'Hearn, I'm like a 6.5 that the Marlins will actually make an effort to try to sign this guy because it makes so much sense. It just makes so much sense. Nobody extended him. He's been really consistent the last couple of years. I don't know. It just makes so much sense where you're the Marlins, you sign Ryan O'Hearn, now you can go after your reliever. You've checked first base. You get your big bat. You pair O'Hearn with Stowers, with Marcy, with Otto Lopez, Augustin Ramirez. Suddenly this offense, when they're all healthy together, has a lot of thump to it. These aren't the same week-old Marlins. Got to stay healthy, of course. Health is crucial. But and that's the spark this lineup needs. Again, you won 79 games, 4 games under 500. What's going to take you that next step? Third base, Graham Pauley, Connor Norby, the competition there. I know Barry Jackson's article mentioned third base as being a possibility. If they sign O'Hearn, though, they're probably not going after a third baseman because you have Pauley's defense. You still believe in the upside of Norby. And that's going to be a heck of a competition to watch that, and there's people, Marlins fans, disagree on who they'd rather have. I'd rather have Graham Pauley. If we're talking internal options at third, it's Pauley for me without hesitation. Great defender. The bat is fine. It has a potential to get better. Connor Norby, not a good defender at third, just not. His hit tool, I mean, he's struggled with chase. Just can't lay off stuff. I mean, neither can Pauley, but it's gonna be tough to envision the Marlins not doing anything this offseason. And that's the point Barry Jackson was making. So I'm excited. I can't wait to see what they do. We're going to have the winter meetings in a couple of months. That's always fun and surprising at times. Remember the whole Jake Berger thing, Jesus Luzardo? Yeah, I sure do. Very upset with those trades. I'm hoping that I'm not going to be confused or upset this go around because the Marlins are going to do things to add to their team instead of subtract. Worst case scenario, and if you watch the show, you probably know by now, trading Sandy Alcantara. That's the worst case scenario for the Marlins heading into 2026. Firmly believe you hold on to the guy. He's your ace. So coming up next, we're going to wrap up the show talking about the Arizona Fall League. Just started, and I'm down here in Phoenix, so I'm going to be able to go see the Mesa Solar Sox, who the Marlins prospects are playing for this fall. That's coming up right after the ad. This episode is brought to you by Gametime. There is nothing like going to a baseball game live. You got the energy, the crowd. Postseason baseball is here. Nothing better than postseason baseball. And if you're trying to go to a postseason game, or somebody that might be a Dodgers fan or a Blue Jays fan, Mariners fan, you name it, they're still playing in October. Encourage them or you yourself to use Gametime. It's the app that gives the advantage back to the fan. Fast, easy, backed by the Gametime guarantee, and you'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. And here is the best part. All the prices are straight up. There's no hidden fee. The price you see is the price you pay. It's that easy. I absolutely love using Gametime, and you will too. So download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. Hit that subscribe button if you're watching on the YouTube channel, but also remember Locked On Marlins is wherever you get your podcasts on all the major podcast platforms out there. So wherever you are in the country, in the world, in outer space, if you download the episode before, Locked On Marlins gotcha. Arizona Fall League. I've been waiting for this to start. Super happy. Arizona Fall League's here. Now, most of my listeners, watchers, I assume, are in Florida. We have Marlins fans all over the country. We have podcast viewers and listeners all over as well. For those who don't know, I reside in the Phoenix area. I'm going to Arizona State University, majoring in sports journalism, and I'm super blessed that the Arizona Fall League is right here. And the Marlins prospects that will be playing in the Arizona Fall League will be playing for the Mesa Solar Sox. I can go down and watch them in person. Who are the main guys that I'm going to be watching for when I make it out to Mesa And I mean, they have road games, so it might be on the road. I'm still debating what game I'm going to go to first because I wanted to go tonight. The first pitch was at 6:30. I have a radio show at 6:30 p.m. So unfortunately, probably not going to make the fall league opener. But I'm going to, and I'm probably going to be going to multiple. And if you want to see, highlight clips or close up, let me know. Hit me up. My Twitter handle, Jeremiah Geiger 2 in the comment section. But I'm really excited. Carson Milbrandt, I had an interview with him for Locked On Marlins. Excited to see what he does in the Arizona Fall League. Really had a breakout season for Beloit before getting promoted to Double A Pensacola. I'm expecting big things from Milbrandt and him to wrap up his year strong and on a positive note. Just finish this year strong in the AFL. Starlin Caba to me is the biggest story of the Arizona Fall League. You could argue Carson Milbrandt, but Carson Milbrandt showed the success this season. He showed that he's for real, that he's not going to be relegated without a doubt to becoming a reliever. No, he has real starter's potential. And I think the Marlins organization recognizes that, and they want to continue his development. Starlin Caba, it's so tough, man, because Jesus Luzardo is starting playoff games for the Philadelphia Phillies. Jesus Luzardo is starting playoff games for the Phillies, and Starlin Caba is playing in the Arizona Fall League after a mediocre at best season in Single A Jupiter. Not the ideal spot, not the ideal results of a trade. Now, it's not too far gone yet. But Caba had a year in which he struggled, hit .222, an OPS of .613 across 231 plate appearances, dealt with an injury, played in 51 games, and of course the power is just not there. It's not there. 1 homer this year, 2 homers a year ago, and then 12 doubles over the last couple of seasons. He's a singles hitter who draws his walks and plays elite defense. At some point, though, the hit tool has to be elevated for Caba. It just does. I get he's a glove first prospect. I understand that he's probably got the best shortstop defense in the minor leagues. But if you're trading Luzardo, you want somebody in return that's going to not get pinch hit for at the big league level in the 7th or 8th inning. You don't want, with all due respect, an Adeiny Echeverria. You don't want who's that shortstop for the Braves? Nick Allen. You want a well-rounded prospect. Caba's calling card is his defense. The one thing that's saving me is he's shown spurts of the ability to hit the ball hard. And that's going to be crucial in the Arizona Fall League, is just continue to hit the ball hard. Even if it doesn't result in a hit and you get out, at least you're making good contact and making good contact consistently. That's what I want to see from Caba, because I'd be lying if I said, I'm not worried about him. The other guy that has to have a big Arizona Fall League performance is PJ Morlando. The Blue Jays played the Yankees the other day in the ALDS, and Trey Yesavage set the postseason single game record for strikeouts for a Blue Jay pitcher, either in his debut or overall. I'm double checking right now. It was crazy. I mean, Yesavage looked like a total stud, an absolute phenom. Went 5 1/3, struck out 11, struck out 6 in a row. He was drafted after PJ Morlando. And yeah, it was a Blue Jays franchise record for strikeouts in a single game. So the Marlins could have had that guy, and they opted for Orlando. They also could have had Carson Bench, who's a stud in his own right in the Mets system, who, if the Marlins ever made a trade with New York, and I'm referring back to the trade deadline, Benj was my guy. I don't like trading with the division rivals. Peter Bendix looks at it a little bit differently than me because obviously he moved Luzardo to the Phils. If you trade with the Mets, I'd like Carson Bench, also drafted after PJ Morlando. So for PJ, can't really stay healthy on the field. When he is on the field, he's not, he's not really standing out in any certain way. I mean, he hit 215, 5 bombs and 205 at bats. That's not oozing confidence. He's played 59 games across his first 2 professional seasons. I mean, at some point, it's make it or break it. I think next year in 2026, it's make it or break it for Orlando in regards to his health and in regards to just his overall viability as a prospect, as a former first-round pick. So we'll see what happens there, but he needs to have a big Arizona Fall League. I'll be watching him, Kaba, Milbrandt, those 3 guys. They're the main storylines of the Arizona Fall League for the Marlins. You could also throw in Fenwick Tremble, who's been a productive player since getting drafted a couple years back. He'll be participating. Aiden May, former Oregon State pitcher, will be participating. But the big, flashing red signs, it's Kaba and Orlando. They've got to figure it out. So I'm glad they're getting some more in-game experience, and hopefully this is a good opportunity for them and they grow as players, because that would only boost the Marlins farm system long-term. We're going to wrap it up right here, guys. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Until next time, stay safe, stay locked on, and let's go fish.